Thank you for joining us with the news on QTV. My name is Dana Sumbwe. Our headlines. Microbial contamination is suspected to have caused the stomach illness, which 410 Lusaka residents were recently reported to have suffered from. And the Ministry of Health has dismissed online media reports suggesting that cholera has broken out in Zambia. And now the news in detail. Microbial contamination is suspected to have caused stomach illnesses, which 410 Lusaka residents were recently reported to have suffered from after consuming borehole water. An investigation by the National Water Supply and Sanitation Council (NOSCO) has revealed that sewerage overflow infiltrated the borehole water supplied in Ibex Hill, Malata and Nyumbayanga areas. NOSCO Acting Director Peter Mtale said Nyumbayanga in particular, heavy rains during the period leading into the new year contributed to the increase in the contamination. Speaking at a media briefing held in Lusaka, Mr. Mtale explained that Nyumbayanga has sporadic sewerage overflows during this period. He notes that a borehole located inside the NAPSA housing complex equally does not have a chlorination system fitted on it. Mr. Mtale says NOSCO nevertheless finds the immediate response to the contamination by the Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company to have been less proactive. He states that the Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company lacked a clear strategy in addressing the issue of contamination.
The borehole located inside the NAPSA housing complex in Nyumbayanga, managed by the estate managers, had no chlorination system fitted on it, while two boreholes located on the periphery of the complex belonging to Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company had chlorination systems which were functioning properly at the time. However, operators reported occasional blockages. Blockages are encountered on the chlorination system in the process of operation. Though, ladies and gentlemen, these blockages were not observed on the two boreholes in question in Nyumbayanga. This was the case in two of the three boreholes inspected in Bowling compound. Ladies and gentlemen, I should...
Mr. Mtale has directed the Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company to immediately flush the two water boreholes where contamination occurred and also take over the running of the borehole within the NAPSA housing complex. He says NOSCO also expects the Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company to continue with superchlorination.
Initial response from Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company was less proactive and lacked a clear strategy of addressing the issue, but later we saw a great improvement in terms of response from Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company. While accidents are bound to happen in water systems, the fact that the networks in question are a direct pump in two, which do not have reservoirs to accord chlorine sufficient contact time, the utility should have realized water could inevitably reach some customers with contamination. In the wake of uncertainty about the cause and the source of contamination, the utility should have immediately...
The Ministry of Health says that Zambia has not recorded any cases of cholera or typhoid as being reported in some online platforms. Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary in charge of Administration Dr. Kennedy Malama has clarified that no case of typhoid or cholera has been recorded in Lusaka or any parts of the country. Dr. Malama has appealed to members of the public to desist on giving out unconfirmed reports like that would cause unnecessary panic and alarm. He has, however, reiterated the call on members of the public to maintain hygienic standards to prevent any outbreak of waterborne diseases such as cholera, dysentery or typhoid during this rainy season. He says the ministry is this time around not taking any chances and has therefore heightened surveillance and prevention activities of any disease outbreaks. Dr. Malama has reaffirmed members of the public to ensure that they boil water for drinking, drink treated water, keep surroundings clean, avoid buying food from the streets, and improve on solid waste management. The Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops ZCCB says the launch of the National Dialogue will go ahead as scheduled on the 18th of January next week. ZCCB Secretary General Cleophas Lungu says the launch will take place at the Anglican Cathedral of the Holy Cross in Lusaka around 10 hours. Father Lungu has told Q News in an exclusive interview that those to attend the launch of the National Dialogue will be in 2 groups. He says one of the groups will be of persons who will receive special invitations based on their status and designation, but that this group will not be limited to politicians alone. Father Lungu, who has held back in disclosing the list of this group, says persons of this special group will not, however, be the only ones to take part in the National Dialogue. He notes that in the course of the week, the 3 church mother bodies leading the National Dialogue will nevertheless indicate the extent of this list. The ZCCB Secretary General states that the other group of persons to attend the launch of the National Dialogue will be of persons interested in the process who include the media. He says the ZCCB, the Council of Churches in Zambia, CCZ, and Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, EFZ, will also make provisions for members of the public to attend the launch of the dialogue process. And Father Lungu has maintained that there is no agenda presently for the National Dialogue, despite some stakeholders claiming the existence of such an agenda. He says what will form the agenda for the National Dialogue will include submissions from all stakeholders, who include the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID. Father Lungu notes that the agenda items for the National Dialogue will thus be agreed upon in the first national conference after the launch of the dialogue process on the 18th of this month. He says the date of this national conference will be announced in due course.
Several stakeholders, the political parties, have submitted issues which they want to be tabled in and through the National Dialogue. The ZCID had its own submission, and we have incorporated in general terms the fundamental themes and agenda items which they had in mind. But also we have been receiving, as you can imagine, submissions from other sectors, submissions from individuals and corporate bodies who are also interested to see to it that through this national dialogue we can have a more peaceful, a more united, a more prosperous and, a vibrant, Zambia. So the agenda items will be tabled and will be agreed upon in the first national conference, whose date we are going to announce in the due course. At this point in time, it is premature. We hear in so many media platforms people discussing as if there is already an agenda that has been set and approved. That is not so. That is in fact very far from the truth.
President Edgar Lungu has held talks with his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa at Dube House, the official residence of the president in Durban. President Lungu and President Ramaphosa met for breakfast between 7:30 and 9:30 hours. President Lungu, in his capacity as the SADC chair of the Organ on Politics, Defense and Security Cooperation, met President Ramaphosa over the DRC elections and related developments. President Lungu is accompanied by Zambia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Joseph Malanji, State House spokesperson Amos Chanda, and Zambia's High Commissioner in South Africa, Emmanuel Mwamba. President Ramaphosa has his Minister of International Relations and Lindiwe Sisula, Minister of Defense and Military Veterans Mapisa Nkula, and the Minister of State Security Lesati Duba in the meeting.
On other side.
The Office of the Auditor General will this year conduct a special audit in the use of the Constituency Development Funds, CDF. Minister of Local Government Vincent Mwale says the government wants to see returns from the money it disperses to various constituencies under this fund. Mr. Mwale says budgetary allocations of constituency development funds are intended for development of constituencies and not individuals. He has since urged the Anti-Corruption Commission ACC to start investigating how constituency development funds CDF are dispersed in various constituencies. The Minister of Local Government states that the ACC should use its close relationship it has with the Auditor General's Office to obtain information to investigate how dispersed funds are utilized. He was speaking at the handover ceremony of 6 hammer mills that were repossessed from former Chisamba Member of Parliament Moses Muteteka and given back to the Chisamba Town Council.
This is money that's given to constituencies to make sure that it helps people attend to small issues in urgently. We know that it's government's duty to provide bridges, schools, clinics, hospitals, and everything. But then we've also allowed members of parliament in their committees through local authorities to be able to make their own decisions about certain things that they need in their constituencies. That is why that money is provided, and not that people should help themselves with it. So we rely on you to make sure that what we have done now is done elsewhere if need be, that you follow up and bring back everything that belongs to the people. We always suffer as government to find this money, and members of parliament always on my back, pushing me.
And Anti-Corruption Commission Deputy Director General Rosemary Kuzwayo has described the execution of the case by the Commission as a well-fought battle. Mrs. Kuzwayo has disclosed that despite the many battles that the Anti-Corruption Commission fought up to the time the case was finally disposed of, the Commission soldiered on. She has expressed hope that the hammer mills will now reach the intended beneficiaries.
With this background, I wish to emphatically say that this has been a well-fought battle. The Commission faced challenges on this journey but soldiered on because we believe that the people of Zambia deserve justice to be done. You will agree with me that this is a clear case of greed and selfishness. With this said, let me point out that corruption can also be seen as theft from the nation. It robs citizens of their potential and aspirations for a brighter future. The ramifications of corruption in society are grave. Corruption enriches a few people at the expense of the majority, draining the resources of our economy through misuse, poor service delivery, because a few greedy individuals have pocketed funds meant for the provision of services. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to urge officers holding public office to uphold integrity and ethical behavior because this is an indispensable tool in.
The police officer who died from a bullet wound after being shot in the stomach with an AK-47 Lennox Kapila has been put to rest. Constable Kapila, who is survived by a wife and 2 children, was put to rest at Leopards Hill Memorial Park in Lusaka. And Minister of Home Affairs Stephen Kampiongo, who has regretted the death of the police officer, has urged the bereaved family to look up to God during their difficult time of mourning their loss. Mr. Kampiongo has also appealed to the police officers in the country to always be sober-minded in executing their duty of maintaining law and order. He states that his ministry, under which the Zambia Police falls, will not condone indiscipline where police officers begin to shoot each other in the manner Constable Kapila was killed. The Minister of Home Affairs has warned that any police officer who exhibits any signs of such high levels of indiscipline and criminality will be dealt with accordingly. He has since urged the police command to work tirelessly in bringing to book Edwin Kabasia, the constable who last week went into hiding after shooting his fellow officer in the stomach. This is according to a statement made available to Q News by Ministry of Home Affairs Public Relations Officer Nefas Chifuta. Government says provision of safe drinking water and adequate sanitation will remain one of the priority interventions in its effort to reduce poverty in Zambia. Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Development Protection Acting Assistant Director Abel Mangani says this in addition to promoting socio-economic development and health of its people. Mr. Mangani said this during the Vision Africa Regional Network variant launch of the Mtendere Porous Targeted Sanitation Connection Project in Lusaka. And Mr. Mangani says Mtendere was chosen for this project because the residential area is situated on the Richard Zone for Lusaka and the Lusaka Water and Storage Company. He says there are also approximately 95% of households in Mtendere currently using pit latrines. Mr. Mangani says a total of 6,500 poor and vulnerable people shall access improved sanitation under the project. He notes that more than 36,000 people are, however, to be sensitized on positive hygiene behaviors.
The dangers associated with poor sanitation, especially to densely populated neighbors like Mtendere, cannot be overemphasized. The ministry not only desires to see interdisciplinary participation in the prevention of sanitation-related outbreaks, but also to see households upgrading their sanitation facilities to make them admirable, durable, safe, modern, and attractive. Director Varen and ladies and gentlemen, I wish to stress that we have a daunting task ahead of us to make the WASH programs a reality and contribute to the development of our country to a prosperous middle-income nation by the year 2030. We should all actively participate in this process. You may also wish to be reminded, late last year, the Ministry of Water Development convened.
Speaking at the same launch, Varen Board Chairperson Gilbert Miller disclosed that the total cost of the project is $903,052 United States dollars. Mr. Miller says Millennium Challenge account Zambia has contributed $863,708 United States dollars, while Varen has contributed $39,344 United States dollars.
Through this partnership, the project will do two things basically. One, accelerate access to adequate sanitation to almost 1,300 extreme poor households by supporting construction of flushable toilets and connection to the Lusaka Water and Storage Company's sewer network. This will benefit over 7,800 people. Two, it will conduct hygiene sensitization, remember knowledge is power, to enable more than 36,000 people to practice positive hygiene behaviors. Remember, providing these services is one thing, but to do a good job is yet another. Allow me to submit.
And Mtendere Ward Councillor Watson Mtonga has thanked the Millennium Challenge account Zambia and Varen for the project.
Mtendere was founded in 1968, and from that time until date, people are still using pit latrine. And given such an opportunity today, where other NGOs, other organizations have come to the aid of what Millennium Challenge had started, we thank you so much as Varen. This is how it's supposed to be. People of Mtendere, some are so vulnerable that they can't build a toilet of their own or a push-up block of their own. And indeed, with the initiative, the efforts where you have targeted the poorest targeted sanitation connection project, this is something which will go a long way, and the people of Mtendere, I know, are going to appreciate so much. And again, as
the Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, CSPR, has commended the government for working hard to reduce inflation to a single-digit rate in 2018. CSPR Executive Director Patrick Shindano says that this is important for economic growth because it brings about predictability in planning as opposed to volatility in inflation. But Mr. Shindano is worried that despite ending the year with a single digit, Zambians are still facing challenges due to persistent increase in prices of goods on the market. He has told QTV News that there is urgent need to look at how prices can go down because this has implications on the basic needs of the people. Mr. Shindano has stressed that some people in the country are still starving and cannot afford to buy proper meals for their families. Recently, Central Statistical Office CSO Acting Director Goodson Chinyenga disclosed that Zambia's annual rate of inflation for the month of December 2018 increased to 7.9%.
the rate at which prices are going up is increasing. So we need to look at how we sustain that and look at a reduction rate where prices will be coming down, because that has implication on the basic needs of our people, meaning that people have to pay a little bit more at a faster rate in terms of their essential needs. So commodities will be going up much faster than usual. So if a milling bag costs 60 today, tomorrow it will be 65, the other month it will be 70 and so on, which is not keeping up with the rate at which incomes of most of our citizens are increasing, if at all they are increasing, because the economy has quite stagnated despite the growth that we have observed, and most workers have not been able to negotiate better pays. So what means that most of the disposable incomes has been eroded away from most of our citizens. So that's a critical factor that we need to look at, how to ensure that commodities are.
Botswana High Commissioner to Zambia, Lebo Mnanang Mokalake, has affirmed commitment to enhancing trade relations between Zambia and his country in various sectors. Speaking to Q News in an interview, Mr. Mokalake noted that there are a lot of areas that Zambia and Botswana are currently trading in and carrying out exchange programs that needs to be enhanced and strengthened. Mr. Mokalake says Botswana is currently engaging with his country to see how it can export livestock and meat products into Zambia. He explains that Botswana is renowned for having plenty livestock that can be exported to Zambia, especially once the Zambia-Saudi Arabia deals comes to fruition. The High Commissioner adds that Botswana has areas like the Chobe area which are overstocked with livestock, some of which can be easily exported to Zambia as it is very close to the Zambian borders. He adds that Zambia can also in turn export some agricultural products to Botswana, considering that Zambia is rich in growing of various crops. He is, however, optimistic that trade between Botswana and Zambia will be enhanced once the construction of the Kanzungula Bridge is completed.
But modern time, trade has seen a number of products growing between the two countries. We have seen now, Zambia may be, requesting certain things from Botswana or through Botswana, and Botswana also demanding certain things from Zambia because of new ways of, lifestyle in Botswana. We need more food, for instance, for our cattle. So production of in the agro industry, production of stock feed demands that we get certain products from Zambia, the molasses, the bran, and so on. Those are new things that have come into the market that we need from Zambia. Zambia does the same thing. The Zambian government has sort of improved their agriculture sector. They are able to feed themselves. They are able to export, their agro products, and to do that, they also need certain things from Botswana. They need to restock their newly opened, farm blocks. They need to improve their livestock, and they can do so by exchanging ideas with neighboring countries. And Botswana, when it comes to livestock, the livestock industry is quite strong and nearby.
Tourism and Arts Minister Charles Banda says the country's hospitality sector is poised to register strong growth. Dr. Banda says this is due to the steps taken by government to diversify the economy, such as promoting the hospitality and tourism sector. He has told QTV News in an interview that government is also making improvements in infrastructure at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport and the construction of roads to tourist destinations. Dr. Banda says once the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport is completed, the country will stand a better chance to have more airlines coming into the country directly. He has stressed that his ministry expects an increase in the number of business travelers to the country as government embarks on a number of initiatives to stimulate economic growth. Dr. Banda has pointed out that government is committed to ensuring that all success roads to all tourism destinations are improved for the better so that tourists should have easy access to these destinations all year round.
So all in all, I would like to say that 2018 was actually a very successful year for us in the tourism sector, in that we have laid ground, and for 2019 what we need to do now is to enhance what we have laid as our springboard in 2018, to ensure that there are more facilities being put up. We want to ensure that more people are traveling to Zambia by introducing many other airlines coming into Lusaka, and ensuring also that we have more airstrips, aerodromes in most of these areas where we have the areas which we have earmarked for the development of tourism. Provincial administration, Northern Provincial Administration, Luapula Provincial Administration, Eastern, Southern, Northwestern, they should be on the ground to ensure that roads leading to these areas are done, because I know that the budget is already speaking to those areas.
Government has been advised to consider coming up with a rule that will make contractors not abiding by the 20% construction policy lose their contracts. Women in Construction President Dorothy Muluila thinks that this policy will only be abided to if government is this strict. Mrs. Muluila states that the current situation where policies are made but not implemented in making some sections of society, especially the women in construction, lose out. She says as a result, women are also failing to contribute to national development. And Mrs. Muluila has described 2018 as having been a bad year for women in construction. She notes that no women contractors received a tender in the construction industry from government.
I think for the past two years or so, we have not had the opportunity to get employment. The 20% has just been on paper. For example, for our women contractors, I think I can only say that there are only about two women or three women who have been given the 20%. So the 20% has not worked. We have cried to RDA, and yes, RDA actually is trying their level best to see how best they can look at that 20% policy and how it can work. But what we are crying about is we think there is an easy answer. All they need to do is to make sure that if they give a big contractor, they should follow it up. They should not leave to the contractor to go and choose whoever they want to work for them, because in the end they don't. So what we are saying is the government has got to say, if the big contractor does not give that 20%, then that 20% is automatically taken away from the contractor. That way, I think
Government has been urged to consider saving the lives of youths involved in drug abuse in Lusaka's Chibolya compound. Harimwanga Nkumbula Ward Development Committee Chairperson Andrew Mwewa is concerned at the level at which drug abuse has reached in Chibolya. Mr. Mwewa has told QTV News that drug abuse in this compound is as a result of the high levels of unemployment. He has requested government to consider constructing recreational centers to help shift the attention of youths from drug abuse.
Given the picture of Chibolya having a lethal place, a place where drug lords or drug groups are found, yeah, it's true. It's true. But what I'm saying is the modalities that we put in place as an office is that we do report such matters whenever they occur. And I'm sure government is fully aware that there are such activities taking place in Chibolya. So we give reports to the Honorable MPs and to the council concerning everything that takes place in the area. So what I may say perhaps is that
Youth Aid says the Patriotic Front does not deserve another mandate because they have made life very unbearable for Zambians. Organization chairperson Chungu Kachenga has alleged that the Patriotic Front government has brought a lot of challenges upon Zambians due to the poor performance of the economy. He says prices of essential commodities such as meal, fuel and electricity, among other things, have been hiked during their current leadership. Mr. Kachenga feels that there is no need for Zambians to give the Patriotic Front leadership another mandate in 2021.
The Patriotic Front has made life very unbearable for the ordinary Zambian. In addition to the poor performance of the economy, we are seeing prices of essential commodities like meal, like fuel, like electricity, among other things, being hiked almost double the price. Okay, so we have seen, I think as Zambians, that this government must not be replaced. They do not deserve another mandate. Okay, we are seeing prices of minimum going as high as 105, okay, 107. Where are we going as a country? We need to change this leadership come 2021. There is no way and there is no explanation that President Lungu can give us because he has failed. These are the results of his failure. Okay, where have you seen in this country that fuel has gone to such kind of a level? Okay, where have you seen in this country that liquidity, cash flow is very, very, difficult? Where have you seen in this country that today we are complaining about electricity tariffs, okay, road tolls, among so many fines and charges that this Patriotic Front government has brought on the poor people of Zambia? Okay, the Patriotic Front government has failed in its mandate to deliver to the people of Zambia. So we believe that come 2021, there should be no need for the PF to even contest the general election. I think it would be honorable for them to step aside.
To end the news, we take a look at the headlines once again. Microbial contamination is suspected to have caused stomach illness, which 410 Lusaka residents were recently reported to have suffered from. And the Ministry of Health has dismissed online media reports suggesting that cholera has broken out in Zambia. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Dana Sumbwe. Thank you for watching.